The expedition is here, and now that we don't have any blueprints, let me show you the best way to find the rarest blueprints in the game. I spent 12 hours hunting down 100 unopened hurricane caches. In doing so, I tried out a bunch of different methods, and I wasted a ton of time. So in this video, I'm going to show you the best method that I found in hopes that you waste less time running around in the dark. Now, the caches did get nerfed a little bit in the latest patch. More about that in just a minute, but this method stays the same. This is, without a doubt, the only guide to finding hurricane caches in Arc Raiders that you will ever need. Let's run it up. First off, let me set your expectations. This is not a general blueprint farm. The majority of the time you will find a Bobcat, Tempest, Vulcano, or Vita Spray blueprint. Out of the 100 caches, I found 57 blueprints in total. And no, I didn't include already opened caches in the 100 count. I ended up finding 18 Bobcat, 11 Tempest, 11 Vulcano, and 7 Vita Spray blueprints. So be sure to check out my previous video for more in-depth info about what I got from the 100 caches. But again, that video was made before the nerf, but it should still be somewhat useful. So here I pulled up the patch notes for today's update, March 3rd, 2026. They lowered the drop rate of rare blueprints slightly and raised the drop rate for other high tier materials in the first wave caches. So they're saying that these first wave caches have been handing out a lot of blueprints, especially how good we are at hunting them down thanks to websites like Metaforge. And so they say to help balance that out, we're bumping up higher tier materials inside the caches. I don't really know exactly what higher tier materials means, so while you might see a few fewer blueprints overall, you'll be getting better materials in return. So caches will still be a solid way to find blueprints, just not where the point where you can reliably walk away from every session with 3 to 5 of them. So what I get from this is like lower the drop rate of rare blueprints slightly, so I think it's obviously purposely weighted towards rare blueprints, which is interesting. So Bobcat, Vulcano, Tempest, Vita Spray. So they lowered the drop rate, but it still should be a reliable way to find blueprints. So exactly what can you expect to find in a hurricane cache? So pre-patch, 57% of the time I found a blueprint. However, with this new update, we can expect slightly less blueprint drops and slightly more higher tier materials, whatever that means. The wording is super vague, but I assume that they're referring to epic drops, such as Exodus modules and magnetic accelerators. Take from that what you will. Now aside from those, you're guaranteed to find a ton of white heals, your herbals, Vita shots, defibs, that sort of thing, as well as a bunch of different grenade types. I found showstoppers, blaze grenades, smoke grenades, snap blast, gas, impact, you name it. And I imagine that you could get a trailblazer or two, or maybe even better ones, potentially a deadline, after the recent update to compensate for the blueprint reduction, but that right there is just pure speculation. I also found a good amount of medium shields, and of course there's always a few bullets rolling around there in the cache. Oftentimes I would find 1 or 2 weapons, and if I was lucky I would get a blueprint on top of that. The majority of the time a weapon will spawn in the cache. You can find anvils, burlettas, arpeggios, toros, ospreys, renegades, venators, and torrentes, and if you're lucky you could even get an epic or purple drop. So I think I got 1 or 2 of those epic drops out of the 100 caches, and I also got a comment saying that they got one too. By the way, big thanks to you, Dubstep Master, and everyone else who commented on the last one. You helped me make a better guide than I ever would have in a vacuum. Anyways, let's take a look at my go-to loadout for hitting these hurricane caches. And it's not a free kit because you need 8 to 10 adrenaline shots for 2 reasons. You're going to be running into the wind a ton of time, and it really sucks to run into the wind with no stamina. And second, you need speed. You need to be speed. Speed is the name of the game. You either have to be fast or just really lucky and hoping that no one happens to be hunting for caches. But I think that you should choose to be fast and save the luck for when you get to the caches. I ran a light shield with a green looting augment. I actually kept my shield off most of the time because I didn't want it wasting durability from just running around. But I'm also in super friendly lobbies, so PvP really isn't a problem for me, which is also something to keep in mind. But when I get to the exfil, I would throw on my shield just in case of rats or an arc swarm. Other than that, for the loadout, I just packed 1 gun and 1 stack of ammo. I generally use the anvil because it's really nice to take out the occasional snitch or firefly, and then just 1 usual stack of heals and shields each. So for my go-to, I didn't use a free kit, but it could be a viable option, I just didn't try it. So here are pros and cons of a free kit as I see it. The main cons are you don't get a safe pocket, you don't get adrenaline shots, maybe 1 if you're lucky, and 3, you have really limited storage space and carryable weight. But the main pro of using a free kit is that you can just surrender with no gear lost, and if you get a bad spawn, it could potentially save you 5 to 10 minutes, which could possibly outweigh the cons of using a free kit. And since the expedition just hit and you might not have much of anything, you can also hit a few raids on a free kit just to get some basic gear and trade in your free augment to Lance for a green looting augment for free to unlock that safe pocket and a bunch more weight and storage slots. With that said, I'll let you try out either method and report back to the comment section to let everyone know what worked best for you. Now let's answer a very important question. How do you even find these caches? Well, I have 2 answers, using Metaforge and headphones. Both of these are super necessary for the best chance of success. So first off, I'm going to do my best to get you to hear the audio cue for these caches if you haven't found one yet, as it's really hard to hear with all the wind sounds in the game, and you also have to be pretty close to them compared to a regular radar cache, for instance. So I'm going to flash text on screen at the exact frames that the cache is beeping so that you can hear them and get to know the chime's rhythm and hopefully know what to listen for when hunting for these caches yourself. So hopefully now you know what they sound like. So now the question is, where do you even look? You could just run around aimlessly, hoping to stumble close enough to a cache to where you can hear it, but I definitely wouldn't recommend that. I mean, that would be more immersive, and it'd be fine if you don't really care about being super efficient, but that's not what this video is about. I'm here to get you rich off of blueprints, and the best way to do that is by using Metaforge. Let's go ahead and jump over to Metaforge. I'll leave the link in the description so that you can find these caches lickety split. So here I am on Metaforge, metaforge.app/arcraiders, and this is, in my opinion, really necessary if you want to find the most blueprints as possible. So scrolling down, we're worried about these top 4 maps. Stella Montes does not have a hurricane event, but for instance, this is basically what I was doing for Buried City. So this is what I do. We're on the Buried City here. I would just do the same thing for all the maps. Enable region, loot zone, landmarks, decent loot, abundant loot, so that now we have a better understanding about where we are on the map. And then I also enabled hatch extraction. There's a ton of spawns, so you can figure out exactly where you spawn and then the best route to go from there. And then I also enabled field depot for just a little bit more of grounding me in the right areas. A lot of times caches will be sort of in the area, so you can say, well, it's just south of the field depot, for instance. And you can enable any other locations that you want, but one thing that is the most important is hurricane caches. So right here we go. This is the golden ticket for blueprints in the game. So one thing to keep in mind with these hurricane cache pins, these are all added by, different players. All you have to do is log in and then add a marker as yourself, as you can see up top here. So anyone who adds a cache can kind of place the pin wherever they want. I just want to clarify a couple of things right here. Honestly, I never found a cache in this area. I haven't found one hurricane cache. I looked here a bunch of times. I mean, I was probably just unlucky. But for instance, like 2 caches in this right spot, this is that solar panel. There's 2 people who say they found a cache right here. You're probably likely to find one eventually. So over on the right side of the map here, I just want to point out, like, there's not 2 caches right here. There's most likely a cache somewhere around this area. And what I would do is I would ping this on my map in game, and I would, spawn here or whatever. I'd circle around this area for just, 5-10 seconds. And if I don't hear the beeping, I would move on down here. And like I said, most of the time, if there's caches really close to each other, they're probably somewhere in the general area. I wouldn't expect to find 2 caches right nearby of each other. Down south, I do know that there's a cache here and there's a cache here. I did find them in quick succession one time, and there's also going to be caches that aren't pinned. So here I am on the Bluegate map at the Metaforge.app. Let me just give you an example of a route that I would take. So for instance, let's say I spawn here at the village spawn point. Now there's 4 other spawns in the greater village area. So I would spawn here, I would check this cache, this cache, this cache, and this cache. Then I would run down south. There's a little forklift or something right here. I never found a cache here personally. Maybe you'll be more lucky. And then I would peek over here to reception, keep running south. Over here I found a cache or 2, and then I would jump all the way across here to in front of the warehouse complex. I think there's a sentinel that spawns up top here. Just make sure you're aware of that. Now you'll notice these spots over here, they're so far away from any player spawns. There's a spawn here, spawn here, spawn here, but this right here is an overlook air shaft, so you can make your way from the top here and hit, you know, a decent amount of caches all the way across and check around the maintenance bunker area. I found a cache here a couple of times up top here, but even if you go all the way to the east here, you might be competing with this guy. So a lot of times I would just start up here, hit these, and then check around the maintenance bunker and then hit the air shaft, be in and out in 6-7 minutes. So this player spawn marker can actually be really useful in helping to eliminate competition. But with that said, shout out to Metaforge. I mean, honestly, it's a great website, and it seems like they have a ton of different games on here. So they've been really helpful in finding hurricane caches for me. Before we move on, I just want to shout out my One Life series. It's a cinematic story-based experience on me trying to make $1 million in cash without dying once. If I die, I restart. So if you're looking for more of that type of content, check out the playlist up top here, and it'll also be at the end of the video. Anyways, there is actually a lot of luck when it comes to looking for these caches. First of all, the cache spawn itself is not guaranteed. I can't confirm the probability, but expect for the cache to actually spawn in at around 50% of the time or even less. So second off, you need to be lucky with your spawn in both the time of the raid and the location. If your first spawn, you have a great chance to find 4+ caches, but only if you're super quick and only if you get a good spawn location. If you get a later spawn and you happen to spawn nearby to a cache, go ahead and check it out, but don't go out of your way to hit the same route that you would if you had a first spawn on a great location. And especially if you find a cache that's already open, just get out of there and re-roll on the next raid. I will say that oftentimes I would get a late spawn and I'd be stubborn about not going straight to the extract without at least trying to hit a few caches, and sometimes I would get lucky. If I spawned in late, I would hit the caches that are located on the outskirts of the map and not hope to get a home run type of raid. So don't sleep on the outer caches, because you'll find way less competition out on the edges of the map as opposed to the ones that are clustered together with a really good obvious route. So the most caches I found in one raid was 7 on the Blue Gate. I also found 6 in the Dam Battlegrounds, but honestly 3 to 4 caches in one raid is still a massive W. With that said, I did go 5 raids or more multiple times without finding a single cache. Unfortunately, it's just the luck of the draw. When hunting for the 100 caches, I found an average of 8 or 9 caches per hour over a 12-hour period. Before the patch, I found 57 blueprints out of the 100, which is about 4 to 5 blueprints per hour using this method. But keep in mind, the blueprints are weighted towards the few rare ones, so I was getting a ton of duplicates. And also, the 57 blueprints out of the 100 caches is definitely way better than what we'll be able to find post-patch. One other thing that you should keep in mind is that the maps do not affect which blueprint that you get. Someone commented about this and I wasn't sure until I looked back at my footage, and I found that during my first hurricane event on the Blue Gate, I was getting all 4 of the main blueprints mentioned before. But I will say that when I was hunting for these, I hated doing it during Spaceport because of how massive the map is. There's so much running in between caches, and oftentimes I'd find myself running directly into the wind, which is honestly very annoying. Now at this point, you basically know everything that you need to find these caches quickest, and if not, let me know in the comments and I'll add extra info to the description so that the community can have the most accurate info. But now, I'm going to throw in a couple of bonus tips that won't make the biggest difference, but it can definitely help you if you implement them. First off, on the note of speed, you don't want to loot, you don't want to breach, and you don't want to fight Ark if possible. You have one mission. You need to find these caches. If you get distracted, you will miss out and someone will beat you to it. Lock the fuck in, dog. Bonus tip number 2. Try to figure out which direction the wind is blowing. It seems to be pretty random every time you spawn which direction the wind is pushing you, but if you can map out a quick route in the right direction of the wind, it would be so much quicker to find these caches, and it'll force you to get a little bit creative with your routing. And if you map out a different route based on the wind instead of where they're actually clustered together, you'll probably have less competition than everyone just following the most obvious route, not even taking into account the direction of the wind. And the third tip, if you're first spawn, go ahead and follow the most obvious route. It's obvious for a reason because there's a lot of them stacked up in certain areas of the map. But say your second, third, fourth spawn and you find that first cache that's already open, you have to redirect. Don't turn into a drone. Don't do the same thing every time no matter what happens. Go ahead and change up your route a little bit. Every time I did this, I was rewarded because I was going in places where caches are completely isolated, and that's when I was able to find caches at 12 minutes left to go in the raid. I guarantee you I wouldn't have found any if I was just using the same route that I normally would have if I got first spawn. So that's all I got for you really. Now I just wanted to take the time to thank you all for watching my last video and this one. You guys blew that up to 30,000 views in just a couple of days, which is mind-blowing. Way better than any other video that I made before on the channel, especially in Ark Raiders. And to everyone who liked and commented, you influenced the contents of this guide right here. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Every little lick of support means the world to me, as it's my dream to be able to do this full time. With that being said, go ahead and check out my One Life series playlist. I spent so much time trying to craft some bingeable, cinematic, narrative type content for you. Man, I think you'll really enjoy it. And on top of that, I'd be really interested to see if you think that I was a douchebag in the first few minutes of the first episode. You'll have to go ahead and watch it to find out what I mean by that, but other than that, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. You're a freaking legend, and I hope that you have a splendid rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.